We're back for another week of the Limitless Leadership Lounge, a tri-generational conversation for you, the emerging leader. And one of the great things about sitting here in the lounge is just soaking in all the great leadership insight. And Coach Jim Johnson has brought along yet another phenomenal guest, another award-winning speaker today who we're excited to dive in with. So Coach, go ahead and introduce Dr. Jolley today and let's get started.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure to introduce my friend, Dr. Willie Jolley. Dr. Jolley and I met actually a long time ago at a speaker showcase back in Chicago, many moons ago. And then we met more at national speakers. Actually, Willie came to Rochester to speak on a motivational tour, and him and his lovely wife Dee and my wife, we had dinner together, and Willie and I have established a nice relationship. So let me give him appropriate. Dr. Willie Jolley is a Hall of Fame speaker. He's the #1 leading expert on turning setbacks into comebacks. He's an international best-selling author, a Sirius XM host, syndicated daily radio show host, a C-suite radio podcast host, and a TV personality. And Willie is one of the best speakers I've ever seen. He's also an outstanding singer. And as I mentioned, his wife Dee and him have been married for a number of years, and they have a great relationship. I know they talk a lot about marriage in some of their episodes. So without any further ado, Dr. Willie Jolley, welcome to the Limitless Leadership Lounge.
Well, it's a privilege and a pleasure to be on with my friend Jim Johnson and to be able to share some ideas. And it's a pleasure to have John as part of it and your other co-host who is not able to be with us today, but we're gonna make sure she knows that we got lots of love for her. So for those who know me know I start every interview with the same poem. I start my speeches with it, and I start my radio show on Sirius XM with it because it is something that I've become known for and people expect who have heard me before. And it simply says, I have only just a minute, only 60 seconds in it. Forced upon me, can't refuse it. Did not seek it, did not choose it, but it's up to me to use it. I must suffer if I lose it, give account if I abuse it. Just a tiny little minute, but our eternities are wrapped up in it. So I'm grateful for this minute, this moment, this opportunity to be on with you and your listeners and to hopefully give them some ideas that will help them to make the most of each and every minute they have and to help them win more. Because hopefully everybody who's listening wants to win. In fact, I always just like to ask a question. How many of you who are listening want to win more? Not just in terms of a sports activity, but win in life, win in your finances, win in your family relationships, win in your romantic relationships, win in your business activities. How many want to win? I hope everybody put up their hand and say, I want to win, because that's what we want to help people do, win more. And in the process of winning, you'll have setbacks. But we're going to tell you how to not only get through the setbacks, not just survive the setbacks, but we want to tell you how to thrive and turn those setbacks into amazing comebacks, and hopefully also turn those comebacks into some amazing greenbacks. Come on, somebody. I think I'm getting fired up already. All right, let's go, gentlemen. Let's take it to another level.
All right, Willie, it's you always start with on fire, and we're going to keep you going here. So tell us, well, as a young leader, all people have setbacks, but young leaders tend to have even more. What advice would you give a young leader when they take over a team and they immediately start to have setbacks? How can they overcome that and make those?
First of all, before I tell them how to do that, let me give them some context or why I can even have the right or the ability to tell them, because they could say, who is this guy? Why should we listen to him? My story is one of turning setbacks into comebacks. I was a singer, as Coach said earlier. I'm a singer. I was a singer before I became a speaker. And I was a well-known nightclub singer in the Washington, D.C. area. I had built the number one night spot in Washington, D.C. People would line up at 7 o'clock for the 8 o'clock show, 9 o'clock for the 10 o'clock show. Packed out every night, won the award for best jazz singer, best entertainer, best performer. Things were going great. And so one night, after a number of months of really doing well, we had a situation or experience where the club owner said, "You guys are awesome. Want to talk to you after tonight's show." I said, "Great." I told the guys in the band they want to talk. We've been selling out for months. We got standing room only audiences. We've won all the awards. We're finally going to get our raise. I walked in his office. He said, "You were great. The people love you. We love you. We made a lot of money since you've been here. We have been just making lots of new things happening, and we're excited." I said, "Great." He said, "So that's why it's hard for me to tell you what I'm going to have to tell you. Our ownership group has decided that we got to get a better return on investment. It's a small club. And in order to do that, we've got to lower the cost. We can't get any more people in, and we're at the top of what we can charge people. So we found something else that's going around the country that's filling up nightclubs. It's a lot less expensive to operate, and your profit margins are up. You get a better return on investment. We bought a karaoke machine, and we're going to give that a shot for a little while, see how that works." I said, but what about my bills? And I learned that night that nobody cares about your bills but you and the people you owe. Am I right about it? And I was devastated because I'd worked so hard to build this club. I had sent out my own postcards to help build a clientele. I'd done radio and television interviews to help build a clientele. And now that it was cooking, it was doing great, they decided to restructure, reorganize. You call it what you want, but I got fired. Okay. Well, you can have all kind of pretty words you can say. And I was devastated because I had worked so hard. I was depressed because this was the top of the food chain in Washington, D.C. for nightclubs. What was I going to do now? Go back to where I was at the early days when I was struggling? They're paying you $5 and a chicken dinner. No, I don't want to do that. And I was depressed. And someone gave me a motivational cassette tape. I had never heard a motivational tape. I had never heard a motivational message. And on his message was a guy who said, in 5 years, you'll be the same person you are today, except for two things: the people you meet who inspire you, and the books you read that empower you. I had never been a reader, but something got in my mind. This man seems to know what he's talking about. And that same person who gave me that cassette motivational tape gave me a book called Think and Grow Rich. I never read a book from cover to cover, and definitely never read a self-help book. And I read that book, and it changed my thinking. In that book is a line that said, wherever there's an adversity, there is also at the same place and time the seed of a greater opportunity. And I took that to heart. I took a job while I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with the Washington, D.C. public school system. It was a temporary job as a drug prevention coordinator, talking to little kids about staying away from drugs. And it was during that year, working for the D.C. public school system, that I found what I was born to do. I found the comeback opportunity. And I started speaking to kids. In front of little kids, the teachers would say, "Could you come to my teachers group?" And someone there would say, "Can you come to my church?" And someone at the church would say, "Can you come to my agency, my government agency, or my association?" And things started happening. And then Les Brown, the great motivational speaker, heard me speaking at a little association meeting and invited me to be on tour with him and Gladys Knight, which allowed me to then be introduced to corporate audiences as well as to media. And I started getting more media invitations and media exposure. And I got a little radio show, and a little radio show got popular and got syndicated. You can now hear me all over the world, I guess, on Sirius XM radio, where I have the #1 self-help show in the country now. Plus, you can hear me on Get Up Mornings with Erica Campbell, which is syndicated in 49 markets across America every day with my Wake Up and Win with Dr. Willie Jolley. And that's led to PBS specials and all sorts of other media opportunities. And then one day a book publisher heard me on the radio and offered me an opportunity to write a book. And I wrote a book called It Only Takes a Minute to Change Your Life. It became a national bestseller. Then I wrote a book called A Setback is a Setup for a Comeback. That became a global bestseller, then turned setbacks into greenbacks, then An Attitude of Excellence, then the book with my wife, Make Love, Make Money, Make It Last, and things started happening. In 1999, I was named one of the outstanding 5 speakers in the world by Toastmasters. Only 50 people in the world have been given that award. Colin Powell, Norman Schwarzkopf, Nelson Mandela, Margaret Thatcher, Christopher Reeve. 2005, I was inducted in the Speaker Hall of Fame. And last year, 2023, I got the Joseph R. Biden Lifetime Achievement Award in January. And then in July, I was awarded the highest award in the speaking industry, the Cavett Award. And all of that happened because I got fired and replaced by a karaoke machine. I had a setback, but I didn't let that setback set me back in terms of stopping me. It gave me the impetus, the will to go on. And that cassette tape, between my changing my thinking. So the answer to you, go back to your question. You got a young person who's had a setback and they're going into leadership. I say, welcome to the club. Welcome to the club. So if you want to be a leader, you got to understand that leadership is a process. See, most people think, well, you want to be a leader, they were born a leader. That's not so. Most leaders are not born leaders. They are developed over time. See, leaders are like diamonds. A diamond is not born a diamond. A diamond is born a piece of coal, an ordinary, everyday piece of coal. But it goes through a process of adversity, difficulty, challenge, change, and pressure. And when it goes through that process, there's a transformational impact. And that piece of coal is transformed into a diamond over time. So that young leader, I tell them, I had this exact conversation with a lady yesterday whose son was put in a leadership position and he was struggling. And she said, well, he should maybe find a new job. I said, no, he should not. Mm-hmm. He should learn how to win where he is. Just because it's tough, it's going to be tough at the next place. And if he runs from that, you got to go through it. It's not something that is optional. You must go through the process to become one of the greats. And once you do go through the process, then you get experience. You get new ways of thinking. You become better. So I would say to the young leaders, what are you reading? What are you listening to? What are the inputs that you're getting into your thinking? Because inputs determine outputs. What are you reading, listening to? Are you just watching reality TV when you get home in the evening to relax your mind? Well, that's not a good idea. Mm-hmm. I'm encouraging you to read positive books, listen to positive audios. I encourage everybody to go to my wjwow.com site and sign up for my daily 1-minute motivational messages. Because in a time of instant rice and instant coffee and phone loans and all sorts of instant quick things, you need some quick motivation. So I created 1-minute motivational messages. We send out free globally every day, Monday through Friday, every morning. And people around the globe have said, it changed my business, changed my life. So go to wjwow.com, sign up for it. Now, start with your inputs. Read positive books. Listen to positive materials. Make it your constant diet. Inputs determine outputs. And then be willing to do the work to get better. So that's my answer. I had to give you context so they would know that this is not some guy just telling you, here's what you need to do, blah, blah, blah. I've been there. I've done that. He told you I was inducted in the Speaker Hall of Fame. I'm grateful for that, but I got turned down 11 times before I got it. Okay? This has not been an easy path, an easy journey, but I've grown from it. I've developed from it. You know, you don't go into the gym first day and go over to the heavy weights and thought to say, I'm going to lift them like that guy who's been in here for 20 years. No, you go to the gym if you're wise and you start with the 5-pound weights, the 10-pound weights, the 20-pound weights, and you slowly build up to get those heavy weights. So if you want to be a winner, a leader, you got to go through the process, develop yourself, grow yourself. That's why I focus on self-development. I'm on it. And one my friend Scott McCain, who was earlier on one of the podcasts, we both are artists of residence at High Point University, which is one of the most prolific universities in America now. Other artists of residence are John Maxwell, Steve Wozniak, co-founder of Apple, Superman, the guy who played Superman, people from media. And so anyway, I'm the artist of residence for personal development. And I was asked to join the faculty, the staff, the artists of residence talent pool, I guess, because I'm so big on personal development, developing yourself, developing your thinking, developing yourself. It's an inside job and it's a do-it-yourself project. Nobody makes you better. You do it yourself. You read the books, you listen to audios, you work on yourself, you make a commitment to excellence. Excellence. And things start to change. Hope that answered your question, Coach. A long answer to a short question, but I had to make sure I gave them context.
Right.
It's amazing with in your situation, Dr. Jolley, it was forcing you to make that pivot that set up the career and the legacy that you've built for yourself. That's a perspective, though, that so many people don't have now with, say, emerging technologies. AI is coming in and taking our jobs. Where did that perspective come from for you? And how would you advise a young leader to take on that perspective that, in fact, it's really a setup for something greater?
You said it so wonderfully, and I want to kind of coattail what you said. You said I was forced to do that. Would I have done it without being forced? If I hadn't gotten fired, I very well could still be singing in nightclubs. But I was forced to become the better me, the greater me. And it reminds me of a story in my book, A Setback is a Setup for a Comeback. About a little boy going through a forest. He comes upon an emperor moth struggling to make the transformation from a moth to a butterfly. He looks as it struggles to get its big body through the small opening in the cocoon. An hour goes by. It struggles. 2 hours, it struggles. Finally, he takes out a penknife, cuts a slit in the cocoon to make it easy so it wouldn't have to struggle. Out fell a bug on the ground that was neither a moth nor a butterfly. It had a big bloated body, but small, shriveled, undeveloped wings. He said, fly, fly, fly. But it could not fly because his wings were not developed. He went to get his grandfather, come, why won't that bug fly? He said, son, what did you do? He said, grandfather, I cut a slit to make it easy so it wouldn't have to struggle. He said, my son, that's where the mistake was made. See, it's in the process of forcing its big body through the small opening that it forces the fluid out the body into the wings. Without forcing the fluid out the body into the wings will never develop. And without developed wings, that butterfly cannot fly. And a butterfly that cannot fly will never survive in the wilderness. So the moral of the story is that life and flight are in the struggle. It's in the struggle that you become who you want to be. It's in the struggle, not going around the struggle, not escaping the struggle, not avoiding. Of course, no one wants to struggle, but that is how we grow. Back to the gym. That guy who really lifting that heavy weight is struggling. But it's through that struggle that he finally succeeds. The ones who win the gold medals. We saw the Olympics. We saw these incredible athletes do these amazing feats. But we didn't see the videos of them in the practice sessions, in the gym, tumbling, falling, not succeeding. We didn't see that. It was through their struggle that they became gold medal winners.
Yeah, I was just tell our players this: the things you do in the unseen hours that it makes you really, really good in the seen hours, right? So,
no question, no question,
very, very,
no
very
question.
powerful point. So, this is kind of a two-part question because I'm curious, because I'm a big admirer and you're a very good friend of his. Is what have you learned from the great Les Brown? And then my second part is because young leaders need mentors. What advice would you give a young leader on finding the right mentor for them?
So let me start with the second question and then go back to the first question.
Okay.
Mentors. See, I tell people in my books, my programs on television, radio, there are two ways to get to any goal in life: mentors or mistakes. Now, both will get you there if you don't give up. One just gets you there with less headaches, heartaches, and knots upside your head. Get mentors. Now, how do you get the mentor? You find somebody who has done what you want to do, and you just ask them for some advice. I've learned that when you go to a busy person and say, will you mentor me? They probably going to say no because they're busy. But if you could just ask them, sir, ma'am, you have achieved what I am striving and aspiring to achieve. I just want to ask you one question, sir. I want to ask you one question, ma'am. Boom, ask one question. Say, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I really do. Send them a thank you note. Or shake their hand and say, I really appreciate it. You don't know how much you've helped me. I'd like to stay in touch with you. Is there a way an email or something? And then say, a couple weeks later, say, hey, thank you for that email. Thank you for that advice. It really worked. Got one more question. And slowly build the relationship, because that's how mentorship is. It's a relationship. And most mentors, they're busy. But if you develop the relationship, they'll make time for you. That's first of all. Les Brown is a mentor and a peer. Now that's interesting because he thought it out as a mentor. He was the greatest motivational speaker on the scene when I started speaking. I remember going to see him. I was brand new. And I met him and I asked him a question. And he liked the question. And he said, I'd like to talk to you later. Well, later that evening, I was waiting for him to finish signing books, but as soon as he finished signing the last book, his handlers swished him out the room, out the building, and he drove off. But he had told me where he was staying. So I went to the hotel and I sat in the hotel lobby for 4 hours till he was coming back. He said, you've been waiting all this time? I said, yes, sir. You said you wanted to talk to me after my question. He said, wow. We became friends. So he has had a profound impact on me. Now, I said he was a mentor and then we became peers because as Jim said, I was on the Get Motivated tour. I was the opening speaker. Les was the closing speaker. So we went from being mentor to peer relationship. And there are oftentimes now where Les will call me and say, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? How did I do on this? Give me your insights. So we've gone from mentor to peer. I still regard him, though, as a mentor
Mm.
because I still am grateful for the direction and impact he had. Now, what is something I've learned from him? First of all, give with no expectation of anything in return. That's one of Les's favorite philosophies. Give with no expectation of anything in return. Oh, it will come back to you. But you're not giving to get, you're giving to give. The other thing he told me that I love is, and I got it on my wall here, life is a fight for territory. When you stop fighting for what you want, what you don't want automatically takes over. You got to fight for your health. You got to fight for having a good life, a good relationship. You got to fight for the fact that people are going to be negative. You got to fight for your dreams. And the last thing I'll share with Les is that he has taught me the importance of always working on your thinking. Invest in your thinking. Invest in your thinking. Invest in your thinking. Because that is where you're going to make your wealth in your thinking. So as we speak of that, there's a poem that Les is well known for by Burton Braley. And I love when he does this poem. No one can do it like him, but I will at least give you this poem to celebrate the impact Les has had on the world. He's going to be 80 his next birthday. And so he's still making a difference. He has a poem that says, if you want a thing bad enough, to go out and fight for it, to work day and night for it, to give up your time, your peace, and your sleep for it. If all that you dream and scheme is about it, and life seems useless and worthless without it, if you gladly sweat for it and fret for it and lose all of your terror of the opposition for it, if you simply go after that thing that you want with all of your capacity, strength and sagacity, faith, hope, and confidence, and stern pertinacity, if neither cold, poverty, famine, nor gout, sickness, nor pain of body and brain can keep you away from the thing that you want, if dogged and grim you besiege and beset it, with the help of God, you surely get it. That's something I learned from Les Brown.
Wow. Excellent.
Wow. Dr. Jolley, I mean, you're leaving us speechless here with your dynamic style and you know, our listeners. I know early on when you said, when you did your open, which was so powerful and impactful, talking about winning. And I saw all the hands go up. I don't know about you, but I saw everybody's hands go up. Mine shot straight up in the air. Let's talk too about that young and emerging leader who, yeah, wants to win, but don't really know where they want to win most.
Okay, great.
I think gaining that clarity.
Good. Yeah, good. That's a great question. Thank you, John, for that question. Because see, when you're emerging, you emerge with so many gifts and talents and abilities. Which one do you focus on? Where do you start? What do you want to do? A lot of the time, we'll see people in college, you ask them, what are you majoring in? I don't know. And then they'll go through a series of things because they don't know. And they're trying to figure it out and trying to find what they radiate to, what they gravitate to. So that's fair. That's a good question. But I would say that everybody should have some things they want in life. What do you want? What do you want? So I say that you got to ask a question. Number one, a full question. What do you want? Now, it seems like a simple question, but just like you said, emerging leaders don't quite know what they want. I want kind of this, kind of that. I don't want that. And they can't decide on what they want. So that's a hard question, but a necessary question. What do you want? The more clear you can come up with just an answer. Here's what I want. Number two, once you decide what you want, you ask the question, what will I do to get what I want? Write them down. Write down as many as you can. Now, most people write down 3, 4, 5 answers. And when you finish there, sit for a moment, because that's when you get number 3 question. What more could you do to get what you say you want? Well, maybe I could do that. I'll give you an example. Say I want to lose weight. Okay. Let's say I want to lose weight. That's what I want. I want to get to X pounds. Great. What are you going to do to get to that weight? I wrote down 5, 6, 7, 8 things. Great. Third question, what more could you do? Well, maybe rather than going to the gym 4 days a week, go to the gym 6 days a week, or maybe 5 days a week, or maybe rather than just eating healthy, I could put, I'll eat a salad at every meal. I'll eat at least some fruits and vegetables every day. And then there's the fourth question. What do you want? What could you do to get what you want? What more could you do to get what you want after you said what you think you could do? And number 4 is this. What must you stop doing in order to get what you want? Go back to the analogy. I want to lose weight. What must I stop doing? Eating pretzels at night before I went to bed. That's what I had to stop doing. I used to love some pretzel nuggets, those little round pretzels, and a glass of cranberry juice before I went to bed. It was not helping me. So I had to stop. I haven't had a pretzel at night in years. Had to stop. Had to stop eating desserts on all these speaking engagements that I go to, all these fancy places. They always put a nice fancy dessert in front of you. I tell the waiter, no, thank you. I only eat desserts on Sunday. I had to stop. What must you stop doing to get what you say you want? Hard question, but it's going to take discipline. And I wasn't a disciplined person, but I made up my mind. Let me tell you something. There's nothing, no thing more powerful than a made up mind. There's no thing, nothing, no thing more powerful than a totally made up mind. I'm in this to win it. Come hell or high water. I'm in this boat. The boat gets hit by a storm. I'm in this boat. The boat starts wobbling. I'm in this boat. Boat take on water. Boat turn up to. I'm in the boat because I'm going to win. Period.
Yep.
I'm committed.
Great questions.
So that's it.
So Willie, another thing that I know that young leaders are always struggling with, and a lot of people in general, but it seems something you've gotten done very well, because certainly you have a very accomplished career, but you also have a very loving marriage. Talk more about how you've been able to balance that, to have success in that, the famous, whatever you want to call it, work-life integration, work-life balance, whatever the word we use. But the bottom line is, a lot of people getting into leadership, there's more responsibility, and it tends to, they suffer in like family life. So,
well, first of all, I got to give again context. My wife and I have been married. Next anniversary will be 40 years. We have not had an argument in over 38 years. We wrote a book that has become a popular marriage book called Make Love, Make Money, Make It Last. 10 Secrets to Shape a Great Marriage. Well, I encourage everybody to go to jollymarriage.com. Get the free chapter from the book. The biggest chapter in the book is the chapter on communication. Communication is the number one reason people break up. There are three boulders that break up marriages: sex, money, communication. All of them are tied to communication. Most money problems tied to communication. Sex problems tied to communication. So it's the biggest boulder of the three, and that's the biggest chapter in the book, and we give it away free. So go to jollymarriage.com. And also, you can see our TED Talk there, How to Never Ever Argue Again in Marriage, free. All of this is free. So that's first. Second, choosing your life partner. I tell my children the most important decision you will ever make next to your faith in God is who you marry. Because that person is going to be responsible for 90% of your misery or 90% of your joy. So choose well. When you get a life partner who's in it to win it with you, that y'all are on the same page, then life goes so much better. When you get a life partner who understands that y'all are a team, so your home should be your sanctuary. You go out to work every morning and fight the battles, fight the wars. When you come home, you shouldn't have to fight any more wars. It should be a sanctuary. So you need a life partner who's in it to win it together with you. And how do you choose that person? Here's what we say in the marriage book, chapter number 1. Friends first. Friends first. Most important thing we found in successful marriages is that the two people who are married like each other. I mean, not a little bit, really like each other, like being in each other's presence, not for any other reason. You know, people get married for all sorts of kind of reasons. Somebody looked good. Somebody had it going on with their money and had a fancy car. And people get married for all sorts of reasons. But we say that the main reason you should get married is not just because you love somebody, because you really like them. And that like is part of the love. Because see, love is an emotion. Marriage is a decision. You got to like that person because you're making a decision. And emotions change. They go in and out. They go up and down. I really like my wife. Now, I love her as well, but I like being with her. That way, when things are a little rocky or things we don't agree on, it's not that big a deal. Let's think about your best friend who you've known all your life. Y'all might disagree on something, but you don't let it break you up as friends. Because you say, it's not that big a deal. It's not important. That's why you got to like that person. Friends first. Okay. And that can change it. And so that's what I recommend. And you get a great life partner. It's a great asset. Great asset.
Mm-hmm. Of course, relationships so important as well in the workplace and friendships, like you mentioned. And I know you have a lot of those too, Dr. Jolley. Would you have any advice for the young and emerging leader who wants to improve their relationships even outside of their marriage?
Do for others before you need them to do for you. Simple, fast, quick. That's easy. Do for others before you need anything from them. Help them. That's to develop friends. You know, scripture teaches us, and first of all, you got to know, everybody should know I'm a man of faith. I have a doctorate in a master's in theology, and a doctorate of ministry and faith-driven achievement. I'm not a preacher, but I am a man who believes that God has blessed me. First of all, I believe there is a God. Second, I believe that God still reigns and is alive and still doing great things and has shown it over and over again in my life. And then I'm willing to give him some praise about it. If you ever listen to my XM show, I start every show thanking God for life and strength and health. And I say, God's gift to us is life. Our gift to God is what we do with our lives. So do something extraordinary. So I encourage people to make a commitment because scripture says in order to have a friend, you must first be a friend. So be a friend for. I'll give you a story. Yeah, many years ago, probably 25 years ago, I was speaking mostly to youth at that time. And there was a mayor in Baltimore, Maryland, who had heard about my speaking. And he called me in our office and said, I really would like you to come over and speak to a big youth conference I'm having. I told him my fee. He said, no, we don't have that kind of money. I said, don't worry about it, sir. I'll come. It'd be my pleasure. Okay, great. I went and spoke for him. And it went over like gangbusters. And the next year he called me back and said, now I got a little bit more money, but I still don't have your fee. I said, don't worry, sir. It's a privilege and a pleasure for me to come and help you out. So I spoke for him again. Well, he goes on to leave after his term is over. He works I think the White House or somewhere else. And then he becomes the dean at Howard University Law School. Well, a few years later, my son graduates from University, William and Mary University of William and Mary. And he wants to go to law school. He wants to go to Howard University Law School, where this guy is the dean. He had sent in his application and heard nothing, crickets, for months, because they only had like 400 slots and they had about 10,000 people who had applied. So I picked up the phone. I called this guy who was former mayor, who's now the dean, and I said, this is Dr. Willie Jolley. He said, oh, my friend, how are you? I said, I'm doing great. I said, look, I need your help. My son graduated from College of William and Mary, wants to go to Howard Law School. He applied, has heard nothing. Now, I know you got thousands and thousands of interviews for a few slots. And I also know that this is a tough decision for the people in admissions. I'm not asking you to hook me up. No, I don't want that, because that's not appropriate. All I ask you to do is to put your thumb on his application and read it. And if he is worthy, and if he qualifies, he won't just be another number, but you at least can give him a good shot. That's all I ask. He said, I can do that. I won't make any promises, but I can at least look at his application from the stacks of people we have. My son graduated from Howard University Law School.
Wow.
He's now a lawyer who works at Howard University.
Oh, wow.
That goes to show you about relationship. Do for others before you need them to do for you. It might not be for you personally. It might be for a family member. It might be for a friend. I've gotten friends opportunities for somebody I helped over the years. And I had a friend who was in need. I said, I got a friend. Okay, if they're a friend of yours, they're a friend of mine. Boom. Do for others before you need them to do for you. And go back to what Les Brown said. You do it with no expectation of anything in return. But when you do get a blessing, you're grateful.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Well said. Well said. So, but Willie, we're coming to the close. I have one final question. Then John, I'm sure has one final, and we'll ask how people can best get a hold of you. So you're putting together a team. You know, the great Jim Collins talks about getting the right people on the bus. You know, so tell us, what advice would you give a leader to try to put together the right people for their team?
The answer comes from my interview on my SiriusXM show and my podcast with Bill Marriott. And I encourage everybody to either listen to my SiriusXM show every Saturday at 4 p.m., channel 141. It re-airs Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern time. Or if you don't have XM, or you want to hear some of the past interviews, particularly this one with Bill Marriott, go to the Willie Jolley Wealthy Ways podcast, which is available on Apple, iHeart, C-Suite, TuneIn, Spotify. Check out this one with Bill Merritt. Bill Merritt said his father taught him, who, by the way, you know the Merritt story. They started with a 11-seat root beer stand. That's how Marriott started, with a root beer stand in Washington, D.C., and built the biggest hotel brand in the world.
Wow.
He said, when I interviewed him, what we've learned is something my dad stressed: hire for attitude, teach aptitude. So you want to build a team, you hire for attitude. You check out their attitude. And then you teach them the skill set, because skill set is always secondary to mindset. Do they have a positive attitude? So I hope that answers your question, Coach.
I like it.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Well, we've covered so much. A couple of my main takeaways here: what it means to win, mentorship and mistakes, successful marriages, relationships, your faith and family, Dr. Jolley, and building a winning team. And what I really want to dive in as our time wraps up here is your faith, because that's something that you share with both Coach and I. And I think that's so important, because from the very onset, you were talking about the karaoke machine, the pivot that you made, and how that turned you into what you are now, because you were forced to go through that, right? I don't believe anything happens by accident. Talk a little bit about the role of God in your life, and how you see his plan through all of it.
You know, God is a source of my strength. He's a source of my focus, my life, my light. So I know everybody doesn't believe in God, and I don't try and convert everybody. I just let them know where I stand and how grateful I am, because I know, not think, not perceive. I know there's a God. I've seen it so clearly in my life. Does that mean it's easy? I got a cakewalk? No, but I know that faith is what sustains me and fuels the fire in me. And as I said, God's gift to us in life, like our gift to God is what we do with our lives. And I plan to make sure that I do what I do so well. Dr. Howard Thurman said, you should live your life with such vigor and excitement, because you would hate for God to say, I made a mistake making that one.
Wow.
So I choose to live a life that is godly. Now, some people will say, well, what happens if you die and you realize there ain't no God? Well, I know there is a God, but let's just say that. What happens if I didn't follow God? What in my life? What have I given up? I've given up running around on my wife. Okay. I've given up cheating people, stealing from people, being rude to people. I've given up cursing folks out when I don't like the way they're doing it. I've given up those things. But what could I gain if I am right? Life eternal. I gain respect on this plane, that people know this guy, you ain't got to agree with him, but you got to respect him, because he stands for something. He's not wishy-washy. He's not flip-flopping. He stands for something, and he stands on that. So that's what I have gained, and I'm grateful. So I guess I want to say to everybody that my faith is the secret to my success. It's my secret weapon. And it keeps me centered and keeps me going and growing. And I'm grateful. And in scripture in Romans, it says, for we know that all things work together for them who love the Lord and are the called according to his purpose. All things, even the firing, work together for my good. The disappointments, they work together for my good. So when I know that, I don't let stuff stop me. I don't let stuff bother me. I don't get out of whack when things don't go the way I planned, because I know they're going to be working together for my good. Boom. Chicky boom.
I love that, Dr. Jolly, and you could say that about any life circumstance, an illness,
Yeah.
a loss,
Yeah.
a unexpected change. Yeah, all of that is so inspiring, so impactful for our audience. We want to direct our audience to two places. One is wjwow.com. That's where you can
Yep.
sign up for the 1 minute daily inspiration, and also
Yeah.
jollymarriage.com, because everybody wants to have a better marriage, better relationships, even if they're not married. You get a free chapter of Willie's book up at jollymarriage.com.
And
Anywhere,
yeah,
go right
go
ahead.
also to winwithwillie.com. That's a major site. And it's got all my websites on it. It's got my motivation website, my youth motivation website with info if you want to motivate your kids. Got my faith-based website, got my music site, it got the marriage site. It's got like 10 sites that are all there. Winwithwillie.com plus music and other things are on that site. Winwithwillie.com. I also want to give everybody a gift. I'm going to give you a gift. There's a book I wrote as a co-writer with Scott McCain as one of the people in this book.
No way.
Scott McCain, a whole bunch of Hall of Fame speakers. If you send me an email and say, I heard you on the podcast with Coach Jim and John, the Leaders Lounge, is that correct?
Limitless
Limitless
Leadership
Leaders
Lounge.
Lounge.
Yeah.
Yeah, Limitless Leadership Lounge. But just say, I heard you on the podcast with Coach Jim and John, and I like the gift. My staff will send you a digital copy of this book. All Hall of Fame speakers, called Only the Best on Success. Great ideas for improving your life and your business. Some of America's top speakers, trainings, consultants, and authors. My gift to you, because you took the time to listen to the end. You get the goodie. And so here's what I want everybody to do. Listen carefully. I want you to share this interview with everybody you know. Everybody. Put it on your social media, put it on your text messages. Folks, you got to hear this interview. That's what I want you to do. 2, I want you to subscribe to their podcast, to the Limitless Leaders Lounge. I want you to subscribe to it and tell all your friends to do it. And then 3rd, if you got a business and you want to promote your business, I want you to reach them and become sponsors of their business, of this podcast. I want you to sponsor this podcast because they want to help you grow as you help them grow. So those are things. And then when you get a chance, go to the Willie Jolley Wealthy Ways podcast, listen to those that I told you about, Bill Marriott and others, and listen to my XM show. And then sign up for the newsletter so you get my daily 1-minute messages. And get ready for my new book. New books are coming out too. This coming out real soon. One is called Rich is Good, Wealthy is Better. And the other one is called You Can Win Now If You Know How. Come on, somebody. So both of those books will be out soon. If you're on my newsletter, you'll get updates about them. You can pre-order them once they're ready, and they will change your life. Okay? So those are 2 things I'm very excited about.
And Willie, do you want to, as far as what email should they email you at?
Thank you for asking, because I didn't say that. Info, INFO, at Willie Jolley, WILLIEJOLLEY.com. Info at williejolly.com. Just say, I want the book, the gift book from Coach Jim and John.
Thank you.
Wow. Very generous of you to do that. And
well, that's, you know what I learned. The more you give, the more you get. The more you put out, the more comes back to you. Just give. Give. I recently had an interview with Wally Famous Amos. You know, he passed away recently.
Right.
And I replayed an interview I did with him 10 years ago.
Wow.
One of my favorite interviews ever. You'll be able to hear it on my podcast. Wally Amos inspired and encouraged me and others to serve and to give and to be a blessing to others. And look how magic happens in your life. This is a guy who made cookies as he was a talent agent for William Morris Agency and created the first big chocolate chip cookie company in America. So give, you'll be blessed. Magic happens.
Well
Dr.
said.
Jolley, we thank you so much for your time and your insight. It's been life-changing to so many, and we know it'll change somebody's life who's listening today.
Okay, it's been my privilege, and I'll close as I began. You have only just a minute, only 60 seconds in it. It's forced upon you. You can't refuse it. You did not seek it. You did not choose it, but it's up to you to use it. You must suffer if you lose it. Give account if you abuse it. Just a tiny little minute, but your eternities are wrapped up in it. Been a privilege and a pleasure, a treat and a treasure, a joy beyond measure for me to be on with you, my friend, Coach Jim Johnson, and young John, who is doing his one of his mentees, who has helped him with this podcast, and to the lady who's not here, the professor. We love you too. So I'll see y'all later. God bless you. Have a great day.